Hey everyone, welcome to episode 280, Chapters in Your Life. Welcome to the Harmony in the Home podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Hutchison. I'm a counselor, a life coach, and most importantly, an imperfect mom doing this work right along with you. And my goal on our podcast is to go from chaos to calm, feel less frazzled, and have more fun within your four walls to have more harmony in your home. Hey everyone, I'm loving the feedback that I'm getting from not only just walking out the door, but also about dealing with difficult people. And today we're going to talk about chapters in our life. But before we start talking about that, I want to talk to you about pocket coaching, which has been a super awesome way to connect with so many of you of what's going on in your life, in your four walls, and helping you to get more harmony in your home on a more personal level versus on the podcast level. Because you can share with me via Voxer. Voxer is like if a walkie-talkie and a voicemail had a baby, the baby's name would be Voxer. And so Voxer is a great way to get help on the go. Tell me what happened in the morning, what the tantrum was, how you showed up, how you were yelling, the shame game that you felt, the shame spiral that your child felt, and all the things. And then I can offer tips, strategies, suggestions to help you with your consciousness, and also practical ways of mitigating and fixing what's causing so much stress between you and your four walls. Like I always say, I can't make your problems disappear, but I can make them a little bit smaller, a little more edible. And like I used to tell my students, I can turn a problem that feels like a 6-inch sub into like a 2 or 3-inch sub. It's still there. It's still going to be there, but I can give you more strategies and help you with your consciousness around it and build not only consciousness around it, but then strategies, tips, and tricks to implement while you're conscious dealing with this challenge. So if you're interested, go to coachingkelly.com, go to the Work With Me tab and sign up there, and I'll hook you up, buttercup. So today we're talking about chapters in our life. I love thinking of our life as chapters versus like a divorce or a breakup or a falling out. Those seem so final and so drastic and so awful. But instead, I want you to start thinking about your relationships and just the different eras you've had in your life as chapters. Now, I'm not a big Taylor Swift fan, but she talks about the eras in her life. Like I'm in my single life era, or I'm in my dating era, or I'm in my music era. And she has an Eras tour, which I went to because I have a daughter who's obsessed, or was obsessed. I don't know how so much, but was at the time. And it was so fun watching the concert through her eyes. And it was called the Eras tour because she would sing songs from different eras from her different albums. And she had so many different themes in her life based on what she was going on. And basically each album was an era of what she was going through. So to talk about this a little bit more and really, I think does a better job explaining it versus that I'm going to explain it, is this divorce lawyer did this YouTube and my jaw was on the floor. I think it was like 2 hours long. So I'm not going to play the whole 2 hours, obviously. But if you want to listen to it, I'm going to link it in the show notes because it is so good. I listen on 2X and I listen a couple times because I just like information to be in my brain ASAP. And you hear a divorce lawyer, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not getting a divorce. This doesn't apply to me. It actually applies to everybody of how to prevent a divorce and to make your marriage or your relationships, even with your kids, divorce proof, falling out proof, break up proof, whether it's friendships or your marriages or your children or your coworkers. How to make those relationships closer and more connected. This YouTube hits on all the marks. One of my favorite marks is when he talks about chapters. And here, I'm going to let you listen to this little clip.
It's interesting because I saw in your face when we halfway through the conversation that you were talking about how beautiful love was. Yeah. And I could see the emotion in your face when you were talking about how beautiful love is. And it's contrasting because at the start of the conversation, I would have thought that you thought marriage and love was just this like terrible idea. Obviously, there's a distinction between the two.
It's everything. No, it's everything. I think doing what I do for a living, I see that better than most people. Because we just keep putting these giant bets on the table. And we wouldn't do it if we didn't think the prize was worth it, you know? But see, I also believe too, that we need to start looking at romantic relationships like chapters in a long book. Like
soulmates.
I have to tell you, whoever created the term soulmate, like I owe them a tremendous debt of gratitude because they really helped facilitate divorce as an industry. Because the idea that we have a soulmate and that's the one always creates the possibility that A, this person's perfect for us, for how could I be dissatisfied with them? If they're perfect for me, I must have picked the wrong one. And look, that one over there, that might be the perfect one. Why? Because I feel as great about them as I did about this one when I first met it, but I just don't remember that as much anymore. So the soulmate thing, it's great for business for me, but I think it's terrible for human beings. I think you probably could have a whole bunch of people that you could have had a very satisfying romantic relationship with. Again, not to keep comparing things to dogs, but like, because you love the dog you have now, does it mean you didn't really love the dog you had before? Like, that's ridiculous. It's like people who have children don't go like, well, I couldn't love anything more than this other child, so I'm not having any more children because, I couldn't possibly love. It's like, no, you have an infinite capacity for love. So if you have 2 children, you have 5 children, like you love all the children that you have, So
it's chapters. You're saying it's.
I think you should look at relationships as chapters. Just because a relationship ends in something other than death, right? It ends in divorce, it ends in a breakup, whatever it might be. It doesn't mean it wasn't successful.
Isn't that just so profound to think about your relationships, and especially your breakups, as chapters versus a failure? Because he's a divorce attorney, so a lot of times he deals with people who are going through divorce, obviously. And so when we think about divorce, we think about it as a failure, like something happened and something went wrong. And I am a failure because my divorce did not last the 100 years that it's supposed to last. And I think we need to stop judging and measuring relationships based on how long they last. Because think about a relationship, in our terms, a marriage is only successful based on longevity. So if someone is married 60 years, it is considered a successful relationship. However, no one asks, are you happy in those 60 years? Is this a healthy marriage or is this a toxic marriage? So if you have someone who gets a divorce because the toxicity or there was abuse or they go their separate ways, and then you have another person who's married for 60 years and there was abuse and there's toxicity and there was hitting and there was affairs and there was alcohol abuse and there was lots of toxicity, which relationship is more successful? Well, if you hear someone's married for 60 years, you automatically say it's that one. But how about having quality within that 60 years? Because just judging a relationship based on longevity, I think really is very short-sighted. So I love thinking about chapters in our life, whether it's a divorce, a breakup, a falling out with a best friend, or if you're not talking to someone in your family. Think of it more as a chapter, as a circle. Brooke Castillo talks about, like, instead of thinking about it as divorce or breakup or falling out or they live on an island, emotional island that you're never going to visit again. Think of it as a full circle. The relationship completed the circle. And the same is thinking about your relationships as a chapter in your life. Because think about anybody that you used to date. You don't think about that person and be like, oh my gosh, I wish that never happened. You're like, no, that was a chapter in my life. It made me appreciate and figure out what I wanted and what I didn't want based on examples and non-examples. And I think we all have that with our friendships, past relationships, past friendships, past family relationships. Whether they're in your life or not, longevity is not the only measure of success. Measure of success is the connection between those two people while they're in the relationship. If it doesn't continue forever, it doesn't mean that it's not successful. It means it's an end of a chapter. The circle completed. The circle is complete of that relationship. And there's so many lessons that you learn from all those relationships versus just throwing the baby out the bathwater. I'm a failure. He's a failure. She's a failure. We're all just failures and losers. Because think how hard that is to bounce back from that. To go into the next friendship, to the next relationship, to the next marriage, to the next dating relationship, whatever the relationship you're thinking of right now in your head, think about how much pressure that puts on yourself. So think of your life as chapters, like you're writing a book. And then it's not so overwhelming and so sad and so devastating and so failure, shame-driven when there is an end of a relationship. Whether it's a friendship, coworker, you moved away, she moved away, he moved away. It was just a chapter. And a chapter in your book of life. Not that we're gonna rip the chapter out. We can have no hard feelings. That's an easier way to have no hard feelings about it, because whenever we're feeling that shame spiral, we always want to play the blame game, and it must have been his fault, her fault. But just accept it as like, oh, that chapter is complete. People come into my life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, and everybody is different. And that's a beautiful way to live your life as chapters. And when you take that pressure off your shoulders, you can teach that to your kids, and guess what? You can have more harmony in the home. I love you guys. I'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye. Hey mamas, thanks for listening. If you had any ahas, clicks, or those lightning bolt moments while listening, you have to check out my free parenting bootcamp, where we take all of this to the next level and we try to create even more awakenings for ourselves so that we can connect more with our kids and never yell at them again. You can sign up at www.coachingkelly.com. And if you really want to fill up my love cup, send me an email of what your aha was, what your click was, what was that lightning bolt moment while you were listening. I want nothing more in life than for you to have harmony in your home and to learn how to be an imperfect mom like me, which allows your kids to be imperfect too, each and every day. Thanks for listening.